The story begins 450,000 years ago with the arrival of a shadowed planet called Nibiru. According to a widely believed modern myth, this was the moment an extraterrestrial race, the Anunnaki, first descended to Earth. These beings supposedly came here to mine gold, but the work was too difficult. To create a labor force, they used genetic engineering to splice their own DNA with local hominids, creating the human race as a specialized group of slaves. This narrative was popularized by author Zecharia Sitchin. His books have sold millions of copies, effectively rewriting our history for a global audience and shaping the aesthetic of modern science fiction. Recent psychological research suggests that as people distance themselves from traditional religious faith, the desire for a designed life with a clear purpose remains. For many, extraterrestrial origins provide a new way to find that meaning, offering answers that feel scientific even when they aren't. But Sitchin didn't find evidence of an ancient intergalactic conspiracy. Instead, he fell into a psychological trap that led him to find exactly what he was looking for. Sitchin's Anunnaki theory isn't a historical discovery, it is a psychological projection forced onto ancient stones. The actual Sumerian city-states were far more interesting than any spaceport. They were centers of vibrant agricultural life, built of mud brick and housing up to 50,000 people. In this society, the Anunnaki weren't astronauts. They were a pantheon of deities who served as patron gods for individual cities, managing the land and the temples that anchored every community. One of Sitchin's most dramatic claims is that these alien gods intentionally triggered a global flood to wipe out the human slaveries they had created. But the geological record points toward a different source. At the end of the last ice age, melting glaciers caused catastrophic, localized floods as the Mediterranean Sea spilled over the Bosphorus, breaching natural barriers to create the Black Sea. To the survivors, whose entire known world was limited to their immediate region, a flood of this scale appeared completely global. This wasn't an extraterrestrial genocide. It was a terrifying natural reality that the survivors processed through the lens of divine action. The friction between Sitchin's claims and the archaeological record stems from a process called the literalization of myth. Sitchin took the highly poetic, allegorical language of Sumerian religion and attempted to squeeze it into a 20th century technological framework. Because Sitchin lived in the space age, he looked at spiritual symbols and interpreted them as B-movie rockets and spacesuits, projecting his own modern frame of reference back onto the ancient past. His cornerstone evidence was Seal VA243. Sitchin claimed it proved Sumerians knew a 12-planet solar system, but experts have documented hundreds of these seals. The dots are standard star symbols, and the central motif lacks any resemblance to the Sumerian sun symbol. Sitchin wasn't decoding ancient history. He was acting as a sci-fi writer, using his own technological imagination to rewrite ancient poetry. If the historical and linguistic evidence is so clear, why do we continue to see spaceships where there are only symbols? It's a cognitive bias called top-down processing. Our existing beliefs and expectations act as a filter, literally shaping what our eyes perceive in ambiguous images. We can see this in modern UFO lore. Pilot Kenneth Arnold once described an object's motion as skipping like a saucer across water. The media coined the term flying saucer to describe the craft itself. After that term entered the public consciousness, people suddenly began seeing saucer-shaped crafts everywhere. Their brains were primed to expect that specific shape. We see high-tech machinery in ancient art for the same reason we see spaceships in 1940s weather balloon debris, because the idea has been planted in our minds, and we want to find it. Crediting aliens with the rise of organized society carries a heavy cultural cost. It robs the Sumerians of their actual human legacy. These people mastered complex agriculture and invented writing through sheer human willpower and ingenuity, without the help of extraterrestrial overlords. We don't need to invent fictional creators to find wonder in our origins. The true story of humanity, emerging from the mud of the Tigris and Euphrates to build the world's first cities, is far more profound than being the engineered slaves of a fictional planet.